Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is not too drunk and hangover from last night. It's only day one at Consensus, so it's very excited to start this morning session with our beloved guest today. So I'm welcome to Consensus Hong Kong 2026. I'm Grace from Google Cloud Web3 team. And at Google Cloud, our mission is to empower the startups with our technical foundations and GTM support to help them scale. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest challenges in our industry. We were literally just talking about it inside. Verifiable AI, building trust in autonomous system. As AI moves from passive tools to autonomous agents, the question is no longer, does it work? It's like, how do we prove it? So to help us answer that, I am joined by three leaders at the forefront of the shifts. Dr. Danny Lim, co-founder of PundiAI and PundiX. He's a member of NVIDIA Inception. Danny is building an OpenAI ecosystem designed to ensure AI remains transparent, unbiased, and resistant to monopolistic control. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you.
Second, we have Ricardo Casanova, COO of OptimAI Network. With over 20 years of experience, Ricardo scaled OptimAI to over 700,000 nodes and 420,000 users, creating a leading platform for privacy-first agentic AI. Welcome, Ricardo. And here we have Brian Lavelle, Head of Business Development at Lagrange. He's a Georgetown graduate with a decade in blockchain. Brian's pioneering in the use of zero-knowledge proofs to enable anyone to prove anything at internet scale. Gentlemen, welcome. So before we start to the questions, why don't you take less than a minute to introduce what you're building and why you're here today? So who wants to start first? You want to go first?
I can go first, yes. Okay. So nice to be here. My name is Brian Novell, Head of Business Development at Lagrange. And as is being discussed today, we are pioneering ways of making AI really for the first time verifiable. What it really comes down to is trust, and we help actually bring that trust to AI. So Lagrange is a cryptography company, and we generate zero-knowledge proofs wherever they will be most useful. And certainly with AI being the prevailing and most impactful technology of our day, that is a big area of focus for us.
Yeah, go ahead. So at OptimAI Network, our tech stack is layered in two ways. We have the, you mentioned 700,000 nodes. It's actually 1 million now. We actually hit 1 million. So we have 1 million active nodes that are doing decentralized compute and data. The second piece to that, to Brian's point, is the verifiable data. So we have a reinforcement data network, layer 2, which allows us to give fresh data, not stale, not biased, not gate-kept by a centralized system. So that tech stack for OptimAI makes us the foundation for anybody that's building agents. We want to provide that foundation for all builders. Right. Hi, morning. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So wherever you are come from, my name is Danny. I'm from Singapore, and then from PundiAI. So PundiAI, I think, is the largest decentralized AI data training set. I would say on-chain company. So we have around 6 trillion tokens on-chain. So in case you have no idea, like how much 6 trillion token means that, so we have around 200,000 data sets. So it covers from general data, pharmaceuticals data, healthcare data, you name it, we probably have it. So we are supporting AI agents from trading agents, doctorate agents, lawyer agents, whatever. So we are like, wow, I think the largest on Web3 on-chain data companies. And then we have been doing this since 2024. And then please welcome to share our explore our products on pundi.ai. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. So let's go to the first part of our panel today, where trust breaks first. So let's start with Danny, but feel free to chime in if you have questions. Let's make this like interactive for everyone. So Danny, when an enterprise asks, can you trust this AI output? Which part of a data pipeline usually creates the most uncertainty? How can decentralized infrastructure reduce the risk?
So from an AI data perspective, I think the most so-called uncertainty part is not really the data itself, it's how we filter, clean, or rather label it. I think that's the most uncertainty part because everyone looks at an app, a photo. So someone might think this is an apple. Someone might think this is an orange. So how can we standardize or rather to put a QC, a quality control QC mechanics on it to make sure the data is unbiased or rather is revealing to the true elements on it. That might be the thing that we should focusing on. And then in Pundi, I think we did something very clever instead. So we have a few filtered elements or mechanics to make sure. So we will let the professionals to come and label it, and then we will use AI agents to reconfirm it. And then after that, at the very last stage, we'll do a random check. So we will let our experts to go through the manual check, to go through whether this thing is revealed to the real AI, real data sets. After that, to make sure the data is remain untagged. So we will upload, I mean, of course, we will upload the sensitive data still stored on cloud or rather local host, but the hash data we will upload on so-called on cryptographic hash on blockchain. So that's why we can make sure the data is still untagged, is immutable, is auditable, and is traceable. Right.
Thank you. Anything add to that? If not, I'll go to the next question. Okay, so how about Ricardo? Operationally, where does trust most often break when agents move from testing into live environments? How do design execution systems so actions can be traced or even rolled back?
So we've been on a few of these sessions talking about trust in them. I feel like I'm like that old wet blanket uncle where I'm like, no, you have to stay in the box. Like, it comes down to guardrails, right? Being able to design this system that actually has the rules that the agents, once they become autonomous, they go from sandbox to all of a sudden, refunding on Stripe. All of a sudden, there's a financial impact that's real and impactful and at the speed of light, right? So you have to be able to have those guardrails in place, and that's where that trust becomes not just important, but absolutely mission critical.
Thank you. Got it, Ricardo. So how about for Brian? How does verifiable compute move AI trust from we believe it to we prove it? What level of proof is realistic today for enterprise systems without killing performance?
Sure. So when it comes to AI use cases, when you really think about the ways it can be used, there's a very, very wide spectrum. And that spectrum is really on the range of downside risk of failure. So on one end of the spectrum, there's plenty of very de minimis use cases for AI, where if there is a recipe that you're trying to make and it has an output that calls for 4 eggs instead of 2 eggs, probably not going to cause any major problems. But on the complete other end of the spectrum, you get into the areas where AI could be used for very serious and important use cases, where the downside risk of incorrectness or any of the other pitfalls is severe. In this area, we're talking about things like health, human safety, aerospace and defense, financial risk. So when it comes to especially that end of the spectrum, that is really where verifying AI becomes the most important. It's not just a nice to have, it's a must have. And the lack of ability to do that prior to some of the solutions we're here to talk about today is in a big way what's been holding AI back over time.
So from this, we're going to move to the next part, architectural to real development. Who wants to take the question first? Okay.
Sure, why not? Why not?
So, Danny, so how do you maintain enterprise-grade data quality in a decentralized environment? And how does this integrate into existing pipelines without disrupting governance?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
Sorry, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So how how do you maintain enterprise-grade data quality in a decentralized environment? And how does this integrate into existing pipeline without disrupting the governance?
Right, sure. So enterprise grade data. So I think all of us has like different definitions of enterprise grade. So but before enterprise grade, okay, the enterprise grade data, I think in terms of we can see things into two perspectives. So first of all, is the quality of the data. So the enterprise data needs to be, the quality needs to be there, and then it needs to be compliant. You shouldn't, run into someone's privacy. Needs to go through comply with the GDP compliance, everything. The second perspective is what we call data provenances. So you need to make sure the data, the source of the data is right, and then you shouldn't, and then can be traceable, can be tracked. So and then on top of it, you need to add a so-called verification layer. So I mean, in the future, I think, or rather, in our cases, or in our experience, so when our clients say we need a set of data, so then we deliver it, then our data will ask, where is this data coming from? So it's a bit like, how should I put it? It's like a bit like an instant noodle. So you need to make sure, if you flip into the backside of the instant noodle, it will be like the ingredient. Where's the water, flour, whatever, and then the nutrition table as well. So you need to put into it. So I think not only, I mean, we don't want to discuss how can we do or make sure or ensure the quality of data, but in our crypto spaces, I think the most important thing is to add the verification label on it. So we make sure the data is okay, it's come from a legitimate source. And I think one very important thing is when the regulator comes in, they ask, why do your AI agent have come to this conclusion? So you, as an enterprise owner, you can say, hey, the data and the model is here. We did not compromise anything, and these are the results, or rather the outcome that the agent's coming from. So I mean, that becomes, I wouldn't say excuses, but we provide them a legitimate source or chain of command saying that this is it. So to answer your questions, we have two perspectives, quality of data and verifiable. Yeah.
I think that's a really great answer. It reminds me of another AI conference last year, and also at the panel we discussed about like the problem of data pollution, and there was one guest that points that we should actually treasure what we have today, because there's actually data pollution happening that would really mess up how the AI will feed back to us. And I'm just like curious to know, because you're from Singapore, do you see the regulator in Singapore is actively trying to govern on this?
Okay, there's some discussions on even on parliament level. They have done discussions, but I guess the regulation is still early. But what I observe is, I think EU, like European Union, they have this kind of like discussion, or they even have a framework in 2027. So they were asking, when AI agents coming forward, you need to prove the data, the model, even how the human interactions with the AI needs to be logged. You need to provide a log with it. So there are some frameworks on it, and then obviously the data source, the data provision is always on the table because it's very important.
100%.
Yep.
Because it's exciting, it's scary at the same time, right? Nowadays. So I have a second question maybe for Brian, just to mix up a bit. So how proof systems integrate with both cloud and decentralized stacks without forcing companies to rebuild their entire architecture?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one of the nice things about Lagrange and the way that we do our work is that when generating zero-knowledge proofs, what we're really doing is adding a security layer and verification layer over whatever existing processes are already in place. So it's absolutely not disruptive whatsoever. It's simply an additive layer on top. So when we work with certain models, on our end, all we need to do is build those models into our library, and then we can support them into the future. Now, of course, it's ideal to design with those in mind preemptively, but even for established AI processes, we can absolutely service those without any disruption whatsoever.
Okay, I think like that's great. Because like I think like also like just to like a bit on the regulators part, we see more proactive policies or rules about the use cases of AI agents, da da da. But it actually backs to brass when it comes from the model itself. Like how can we actually protect the model to make it for the right kind of use cases? And that's like going down to the roots. So thank you for answering that. So for Ricardo, what are the biggest technical or organizational barriers to deploying verifiable agents in production today, specifically regarding the trade-offs between cost and verification?
If, if you verify everything, nothing happens, right? But if you verify nothing, then bad things happen, right? So there needs to be a balance in the design, and it comes down to that foundation of the structure. What are the policies? What do those guardrails look like? And then build for that. So you have to be able to have those functions built into the system itself, where you're not verifying everything because nothing will happen, but you're also having to have a certain threshold where you're actually verifying. So, and that's where the verifiable data comes in. Because it moves at speed, AI never sleeps. It has to be something that is built into the system. It can't be human verified. There needs to be a human verified auditable layer, but you can't rely on it because there's no human that can keep on top of that.
Yeah, it's.
I would like to add on this part. So I think I just talked to Brian and backstage. So we were thinking why a company, or rather why a firm doesn't want to, leverage on AI tools these days is, okay, we had this pretty interesting thing. It's not because of the verifications or the cost. It's about the business model. So sometimes, okay, so let's say, have anyone tried a Tesla, like the driverless? So it was amazing, to be fair. But why can't the parliament go open for the driverless car, like autopiloting it, because of the unemployment rate? So sometimes it's not really about the tech or rather the policies, about the business model or rather the economic thingy. So it's a bit subtle, I would say. AI might be, I guess some AI tools are ready for production, but it's just because they will disrupt the current business model. So that's my observations.
Yeah, I think like even for us, like from Google's point of view, we like these days we've been meeting a lot of customers, and we also like get challenged by so especially during consensus, there's a lot of financial institutions. We were also being challenged a lot by then how do you protect your data? How can we trust you? Da da da. And I like even for me, I don't think I can give the perfect answer on that because it's also an area that we need multi-party efforts, including the regulators. And it's so specific that for different places, just imagine like in the States, in Hong Kong, it could be like really different. Like the local regulators, like preference on different LLMs or different model providers, let's say. So yeah, thank you for this insight. So let's move to what's going to happen. So I was at an annual conference earlier this year. So this hosted a really amazing recap on, okay, let's see what happened in 2026. So like it's Chinese New Year next week, and Chinese New Year last year, it's insane for us because what happened was like DeepSeek just dropped their model, right? And everyone needs to work, like everyone here in Greater China, they just need to work overtime Like I was on call, like customer was paying me like, oh, what is this? What they're doing? Can we access to that via Google Cloud? Da da da. So just think about it like this thing happened a year ago. It felt like forever already for everyone here. And then like in the middle, there's like different kind of use cases, agents, and then like we have this insane acquisition with Menace AI and Meta. All of this happened in a year. It's so different. Like, like probably when we talk about like the SaaS era kind of time. So let's look back what will happen this year and next year. Let's do some prediction. So Brian, do you expect cryptographic proof to be a baseline requirement for AI in regulated industries by 2027?
Absolutely, yes. And the reason is that it does come down to trust. And I spoke about that spectrum earlier, and certainly anything that's being regulated is regulated because it inherently falls on that important end of the spectrum. That's why we care about it. But what it also comes down to is acceptance by the regulators, because if they're not familiar with the technology and the way it works and how to analyze it and understand it, it doesn't make sense for them to be able to apply it to what they can accept. So ultimately, when we think about AI, it's kind of like a person, and if you can't trust a person, how much responsibility are you going to give that person? How much are you going to rely on that person and what they say? It's basically the same idea. So until that trust can be established, that's what really needs to happen. Now, the beauty of it being done with cryptography is objective, definitive, mathematic truth. So when Lagrange helps generate zero-knowledge proofs, you can and should trust Lagrange in what we say, but you don't even need to. All you need to do is trust in mathematics, which is 100% definitive and certain. That's what's really being trusted here. And the beauty of it, too, is that when we take technology that is born in Web3 and cryptography, but then unlock it for the rest of the world and all these other industries to benefit from, that is where we're talking about really, really impactful technology being used in big ways.
Yes, I agree. When we talk about the regulation just now, and then we talk about like how do we monitor the model, and Brian really points out a great point is if we want to do something with the model, like the regulators want to do something with the model, have some policy of it, then when you talk about model, it's actually the mathematics behind it, right? And it's really difficult, I would say, difficult for us, like for me, I'm a business graduate, for me to challenge a model, to challenge the mathematics. So I think like Lagrange is providing an amazing technology to help us to solve that problem. Thank you for the answer.
And if I may, to add to that, one point is we are verifying the correctness of the model and the correctness of the outputs. But when it comes to others, for example, regulators that would be looking into the details of that, zero-knowledge proofs are also privacy-preserving by their nature. So regulators and other third parties would not be able to look into the intricacies of the models themselves, the weights and the architecture, as well as the input data. All of that is kept and retained as private. So we really get the best of both worlds in preserving the privacy of that sensitive information and data while getting the benefit of verification and trust over the top of it.
Thank you, Brian. So next, probably a question for Danny. So by 2027, what is the most important milestone for making data provenance a default feature?
Okay, very good questions actually. So when we see from the legal perspective, or rather from a client compliant perspective, so they can't really understand what is the model, or rather what's the math, like what Brian suggested. So they can't really understand what's really behind. So you need to make it so simple and so straightforward that they can, within 10 seconds, they know what's going on, right? So we are talking about data verifiable, we are talking about auditable, we are talking about the source, ZK, whatever. So for lawyer, or rather for parliament members, or senators, they don't really understand what's going on. So what we try to do is to make it simple and easier, and especially probably we can build like a browser thingy, just like our Etherscan browser. So you just input the cache, that the transaction hash, so people can look at it, whether the data is is impeccable, and then nothing has changed, and then because we also store the data, the metadata, on so-called on chain. So we need to make sure people understand what is metadata, what does it means when it doesn't breaks. So the hash or everything. So I think the most important thing is it's not the technical part actually. Is we try to let the regulator understands what we try to do, and then we need to developing more tools and even more conferences like this one to let them understand the rationale. And then obviously for the tech side, we need to let them know the tech is to help them, it's not to unregulate them. So the verification, I mean, because when cryptos, or rather stablecoin, first come out in Singapore, the Singapore government is very skeptical, especially after the FTX collapse. So everyone was like, oh, wow, what's going on? Is this going to collapse? So building the tools and trust, from my perspective, is much more important than the technicality, or rather the ZK proof or transaction hash improvements in these days. Yeah.
Thank you for the answer. I think that's great. Then what do you see is the biggest challenge going through that process? Because like we're talking about data and
Yeah.
it's like unlimited. Then do you think the challenge comes to like time, technology, or probably like money?
I think first of all is it's obviously the cost. So when you want to transfer everything on chain, or rather make it verifiable on chain, is like crazy, right? Because you need to put in a like hash for every the data, and then I mean we need to understand that a big company, they don't really store their data on one server, or rather from one sources. No, they store on their local server, on cloud or wherever. So you need to move that into it, and then somehow it's a cost. So if there's not there's no not a very strict compliant regulations, why would I spend like $1 million or multi-millions of dollars of doing that, right? So I mean, first of all, we need to let the companies, the big companies, to understand why there's a need. And then secondly, it's about the regulators. So they understand things from different from our perspective. So what we try to do is to let them understand, like I keep repeating. And then the third thing is the business model. So it's about, when I do this, can I make more money, or rather can I increase the profit margin? If it's not, then why should I do that? So I think these three elements are pretty important in terms of like how can we improve to let the data proficiencies come into mainstream.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Getting in the mind of founders, there's a lot to juggle with.
Right.
Thank you. So next question to Ricardo. What needs to change operationally for enterprise to trust agents in live financial or business workflows by 2027?
I think attitudes need to change. To Danny's point, why would an enterprise invest all of these resources into something that is not even set in stone, right? I think it sounds terrible, but almost there needs to be like a really bad something happen, and to motivate people to be like, okay, we need to get our ducks in a row, sort of a thing, right? So I think the attitudes are already changing, but I think there needs to be a definite focus on what does that regulation look like, and we have regions like Singapore that's actually very, very on top of the financial stuff. Frankfurt in Germany would probably be in that same category, but being able to get those groups to actually agree and come to a consensus, no pun intended, but come to a consensus on exactly what those regulations look like from an AI perspective, Because if you're thinking about it now, you're already 6 months too late. Because AI is moving, like in 2025, we were still doing, emails. I was getting ChatGPT to do my emails, right? And then it was generative AI. And then, now we're moving into the different phases and the different layers of that onion. So the regulation, we're already behind. So in 2026, going into 2027, like you said, a year ago, the conversations we were having is like, what were we even talking about then? Like 2027, like forget about it. Like that's so far out there. We're gonna be, Elon Musk is gonna be on the moon by then, so.
Yeah. Thank you for that answer, Ricardo. I feel like maybe I'm asking too far when I ask about 2027. Like probably we were just talking about like our plan for work this year, and right, we can only think up until like probably March is the maximum like we can try to predict, and who knows what's gonna happen already after a quarter. So maybe let's have a more wild guess. I want to listen to some fun and wild answers from you. What do you think that's going to happen this year in AI innovation and development? Because we talk about enterprise a lot, we talk about privacy a lot just now. But if you just want to take something more wild, what do you think? It's a question that I just like came to my mind.
Well, okay. I always have this. I'm pretty optimistic about the tech, but I'm very pessimistic about human nature. So I have a few guesses. So first of all, is there's one big AI model company. I wouldn't say they will collapse. I guess they will have a pretty serious data breach issue sued by the government. Okay, so every time when we type anything actually, you write a prompt on ChatGPT, Gemini, or DeepSeek, whatever. You know what? They actually read your prompt and then to train their data. So they know you, I think much better than your father or your wife. They know you on that level. So because you ask everything on it, and then they actually store it. So because there are like a bunch of AI companies, they are not making money yet. Like I won't really say at who, but because the macroeconomics is going, I wouldn't say going to crash, but as I see the market wasn't really good, and then especially the VCs and the secondary markets. So those companies or those big AI data companies, they were facing a pretty interesting winter, a financial winter. So what they can do is they want to make money, and one of the things is advertisement. So they would probably need to sell users' data for their own purposes. So the leakage issue, the data leakage issue will be, I believe there will be one or two cases because of that thing, and then that will be sued by that. So yeah, come to the point that because we are doing data, this is an advertisement. So if you want to use it as a shield, saying that we are not doing any funny thing with your data, so please do it on chain, then try to prove it we are not doing something funny. So that's why a data layer or verification data is very important. Yeah.
Thank you, Danny.
I think, I don't know if you've ever bowled, like bowling?
Oh,
Yep. Yeah. So have you bowled with children, like with kids? Painful. Like everything's in the gutter. And you're just so boring. It's just drink your beer. So I kind of liken it to caution is latency, right? Where there's nervousness in the market, people don't know what to do, enterprises aren't really sure. So that's latency. But you can have throughput with regulation, right? You have the rules, on the bowling alley, you have the guardrails come up, the little kiddie lanes, and all of a sudden, you can whip that ball as hard as you and as fast as you want, and it's gonna bing, 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 and it's still gonna get to the spot, right? But without those guardrails, you have the gutters. You have all of this scariness, right? But then as soon as those guardrails come up, then you have speed, right? And what we need in AI is speed right now because it's moving so quickly that we need to have that speed. We don't have the luxury of that latency or the gutters. We have to have the guardrails. And without those guardrails, everything will be slow. So yeah, we need to get our stuff in order.
Agree. It's always, like, I feel like it's the same feeling I have whenever I engage with the founder and the CTO. Because these two, sometimes they would conflict each other, right? Then I think like having a great guardrail in place would make it work for a development of an AI company.
Well, it's usually like you have like the sales guys, right?
Yes.
Like me, Brian, maybe. And the engineers hate us because we're like, yeah, oh, we can do that. And we go back to them and go, our system needs to do this now. And the engineers are like, what? So they don't like the gunslinger sales guy usually, right? So yeah, you've got that balance between the pragmatic, regulation, and then you've got, how do we get to market? How do we make money, right? How do we cash that check?
Thank you for a great answer, Carlo. Yes, Brian?
Yeah, as with any new technology, that goes through certain stages of evolution. So as far as where we're at now and kind of what we see from our perspective, when we talk with especially certain industries and enterprises that might be on the slower side of adoption, they have not even necessarily started exploring AI. So the first step in the evolution is saying, AI exists and here's what it could do for you in theory. Then everybody gets to the point, and I think this is kind of where we are now in general in terms of the masses, it's as if AI is this be-all, end-all solution to everything. If something can't be done or could be done better, AI can do it, right? And AI is treated as though it's infallible and that it solves every possible problem and does everything better. So I think a lot of our role in terms of what we see at Lagrange is education on all the different ways that AI could fail and go wrong. It can make errors, it can hallucinate. There are plenty of nefarious attack vectors that could be exploited and more. And this is often a surprise, and the magnitude of these and the different ways it could go wrong, that is, I think, where we're at in a big way is the education step. Because when we talk to enterprises, they might be exploring, but then they don't really necessarily know about all those pitfalls. And then it's a matter of, through various solutions, certainly with Lagrange, showing them and explaining to them that that is exactly how we do step forward and really leverage AI for all that we can. And it's providing that definitive trust combined with the power of AI together that makes for a very meaningful and impactful and powerful combination. And now, as far as where that goes, a lot of times when AI is used, the outputs are received by humans, and then we are the ones to act upon it and make decisions based on those outputs. But where things really get interesting is agentic AI and other systems where something else other than humans are taking those outputs and acting upon them, perhaps autonomously. So that is a huge area to unlock, but for that, you need 100,000% definitive trust. Because to put those actions and decisions in the hands of other folks than us, or other technologies than us, that is where that trust becomes of paramount importance. So one of the industries that we've been getting a lot of attention and a lot of attraction from is in military and aerospace defense. Because, for example, when drone swarms are out on the battlefield, coordinating autonomously in real time, and obviously doing things that could have severe ramifications, we certainly need to make sure that those are working autonomously and correctly and have not been infiltrated by the enemy or any other nefarious actors. So that's really where all of this is going. It's that evolution where AI is powerful, it has problems, and those problems can now really be solved and unlock the real power of AI.
Yeah. Thank you for the great answer, Brian. I think it's also a scenario that it's extreme, but it's extreme enough to make us think really hard about it. Thank you, gentlemen. I think it's interesting. It's every time when we join an AI panel or we talk to someone from AI, it's a mix of between like philosophical debates and technical debate, right? And that's why like there's still so much room for us to make it happen together. And we definitely need great companies and technology like you to protect this revolution, I'd say. So I want to thank our panel, Danny, Ricardo, and Brian for their incredible insights today. Before we wrap up, I'd like to give each of you the floor to share your social handles so that the audience can continue conversation with you. So Danny, we'll start with you first. And what will happen for Kundi during consensus or near future? Shout out to the audience.
Right. So please follow our Twitter, Kundi AI, and then my Twitter account is Agin Tender, AGING. Gin is gin tonic, and then tender. So follow us, and then what we'll try to do, or rather in the next 2-3 weeks, we will have our so we have launched a token launcher. So we try to make all AI data as cheaper as possible. So everyone can just buy the data you need, any developers buy the data you need in a fraction of price. So please come and chat to us. And then we can provide you the whatever data, and then with your AI agents, trading data, wherever. So come talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
So our social is OptimAI Network on X. Very, very, very straightforward. If you want to follow me on X as well, my name is Argentum_Aguila, which means gray eagle in Latin, because my gray hair. But even if you don't follow me, follow OptimAI Network, and then engage there. Any questions you have, any partnerships you want to have, conversations, we're totally open to it, and looking forward to build.
Thank you, Ricardo. Brian?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thank you for having us and hosting. This has been a fantastic panel, and thank you to the other panelists. Our website is lagrange.dev, DEV. There you can find all of our socials, and for anybody in the audience who's building anything, if you're part of a company, part of an entity, perhaps even a governmental official, the message to you and anyone else watching at home or after the fact is, we want to build with you. We absolutely want to be able to support you and any ways that you're using AI, and we can certainly make it better together and more trustworthy together. So please do me in touch. I'm looking forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you, Brian. And last but not least, also to Google Cloud. Just Google it, and then my X handle is Gracely_X, and my Telegram is @GoogleGrace. If you have any questions about our offering to the startup ecosystem and Gemini offer. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.